All right, guys, so welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'll be going over what's the difference between a data center engineer as well as a network engineer, or sometimes I call them a data center technician. So, what is the main two differences between that? So let's go over data center engineering, or data center engineer. So, a data center engineer is usually someone who is staffed at the actual physical data center. So there's data centers all over the world, right? And they're growing like a lot. There's a lot of data centers, especially with the need of AI, and a lot of companies moving to the cloud. There's a lot of data centers, and obviously, data centers are basically places that have a lot of devices, right? That are servers, ports, switches, routers, fiber optical cables, SFPs, and cooling equipment, all that stuff, right? So the task of a data center engineer is to be the person who goes into the actual physical data center. And while they're at that physical data center, they actually, do activities such as maybe cleaning a fiber, or swapping fiber or swapping equipment or building a site. So what does that really mean? So the cool thing about network engineering is you have the ability to actually touch physical equipment, right? So as you guys know, being part of a network, like you're watching this YouTube video right now, it's being streamed through YouTube. There's some sort of data center in, I don't know, somewhere near your location that has sort of the content of this video, right? So and there's some sort of server, there's a lot of stuff there, right? So, as a data center engineer, you're maintaining that specific data center location. Sometimes a lot of data center engineers, depending on the role, they may maybe fly to other data centers, right? So it can be like a traveling job as well. So, but let's say you're staffed at a specific data center and you're working there. Your duty is to do a lot of things that are physically right. So it's more of shipping equipment, making sure equipment is sent over, making sure equipment is installed. Right. So you get equipment. Right. The equipment could come from some sort of warehouse or whatever. You get the equipment. You want to make sure it's the right equipment, the one you ordered. And these are expensive equipment, right? The switches, routers, servers, all those types of devices, they cost a lot of money. So you're shipping them over, you bring them to your site, then you want to build them up, right? So you build them up. I've never actually worked at a physical data center. If you guys actually have experience in that, please comment below and let me know if I'm saying what I'm saying is correct. But this is only from my perspective as a network engineer, because we actually, as a network engineer, we work with a lot of data center techs, all the time. So it's quite normal for us to communicate. So this is from my perspective as a network engineer, and obviously from the videos and also the data center technicians I've spoken to in the past. But basically, their duty is they're at the physical site. They're maybe they have their own laptop where they console into devices. They're the ones who officially set up the device, right? They're the first people to touch the equipment, as soon as it's set up, because they're physically there, right? I'm maybe working remote at a different location, so I actually don't have access to actually console into a device, right? So as soon as the device comes in, they set it up, they actually build it up, and then maybe as a network engineer, we'll go and actually validate that stuff, right? So one example is, and I'll bring the example from a network engineer's perspective. As a network engineer, we will sort of check things that are part of the sort of switch. So part of the switch, we'll look at the fiber, making sure the fiber light levels are good. So we'll, as soon as, this is assuming the data center is built out. Once the data center device or whatever is built up, then they'll say, hey, it's configured. Then we'll go ahead and actually check the configurations. We'll run some commands, make sure light is good, right? So if it's a fiber optical cable, we'll make sure the light that's actually hitting the optic is actually on par. We're not getting any errors. We're making sure the port's up and all that stuff. So that's sort of what we do as a network engineer. So the difference is, as a network engineer, we're not actually at the physical site. Although there may be some hybrid positions as a network engineer where maybe it's a smaller company and maybe they have only like one physical site, then maybe you will also, do the layer one stuff. And as you know, in the term we call it as racking and stacking. So racking and stacking essentially means you're the person who, actually builds the equipment, actually, puts the racks, has the rack, has the switches, puts the cards inside, and does actually all the physical stuff. So that's what's known as racking and stacking. But as a network engineer, our duty is to actually write configurations. Do everything in terms of, we validate layer one, but we do a lot of configurations with routing. And that comes from actually the CLI, right? So we actually go and configure that stuff, and we can do that remotely by SSHing into the device. Doesn't matter where it's in, whether the data center is in New York, whether it's in Japan, whether it's in Hawaii, it doesn't matter. We can actually not physically, but we can actually connect to that actual data center from wherever we are in the world. So that's sort of what we do as a network engineer. We actually just configure devices, we troubleshoot them, we make sure it's configured, we make sure communication between that switch and another switch is all good. As opposed to being the person who actually goes to the physical data center and does that stuff. So those are the main two differences between the two. So sometimes you may see positions like, hey, this is a data center technician position. Most likely that role requires you to actually touch the physical equipment, actually go to the data center, which is really nice. And if you guys are new into tech, that's a really, really good field to sort of get your feet wet and jump into before you become a network engineer, because you work with network engineers in that role. You troubleshoot with them, you help them, so you can sort of communicate with them, learn from them, see what they're saying, and that's really going to be, it's a really good position to go from data center to network, because that can help you grow within your career. And it also gives you that rack and stack experience, which is really hard to get. Right. It's so hard to get rack and stack experience if you're not in a role that does that, because these equipments cost a lot of money, right? You can get your own home lab, which is as close as you can get. But when you actually go to a physical data center, you cannot mimic that in real life, like in your own home. It's impossible. It's like, millions of dollars, right? So, or even billions, right? So, working at a data center gives you a ton of experience. It's actually quite fun. It's one of the most unique parts of tech where you can actually, you know, touch equipment, right? So I know some of you guys are like, oh, I want to get into tech, but I don't like sitting behind a desk. Well, as data center tech, you're not going to be sitting behind a desk. Although there is a lot of logistics, a lot of emails, a lot of spreadsheets you got to deal with, but you don't have to actually be the person who has to sit behind a desk, write configurations and all that stuff. Because that can be, maybe tiring for some folks, right? I've always been in a position where I haven't actually had to go to a data center, although I've done tours before. And your company may offer that if you're exclusively only network engineer, which is really nice. Because I know a lot of network engineers who haven't been to a data center. It's kind of hard to understand or sympathize or understand what the data center technician is asking, because a lot of times, we're in one location as a network engineer, we're saying, hey, I'm not something's wrong with the cable or something's wrong with the optic, and the data center technician is like, is it this port or this port? So it's a lot of back and forth that happens in terms of the communication. Sometimes we'll like hop on calls as a network engineer with a data center tech, and then like it'll be like super loud because there's like a lot of fans and stuff. So it really just depends on what they're doing. But we deal with data center technicians all the time. They're really nice to talk to, fun people. And I always dreamed of working at a data center. So maybe soon in the future, maybe hopefully I can go back to a data center and see how things go from there. But that's sort of the difference between a network engineer and data center engineer. Network engineers, sometimes you may go to a data center. You may. A data center technician, you for sure will be physically staffed at the data center. So that's really the main difference. But it just depends on the role. And as you guys know, when it comes to job titles, they all kind of, not to say that they don't mean they're incorrect, which sometimes they are. You may see a position that says network engineer, but you're mostly a data center tech, or you're maybe a data center engineer, but you're actually a network engineer. So that's why I don't believe in job titles, because job titles, it's so vague, or sometimes they're incorrect in terms of naming it, or the way one company names it is different from another company. So maybe you can be a data center tech at one company, another company you're a senior network engineer or some crazy stuff like that. So that's the two main differences. And if you guys are trying to get into tech, I'd recommend both. Both are really good fields. They offer really good learning opportunities, and it's just really fun, right? So if you guys want to get into tech, look into those fields. And yeah, that's kind of how it is. So I want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm looking to pump out some more videos as well. If you guys have any questions, please leave them down in the comment section below. I'll be sure to answer those questions. And then if you guys will like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you guys want to see more videos like this, feel free to subscribe. And if you guys need mentorship or help with getting into this field, feel free to send me a DM on Instagram, or just click the link below to see if I can help you get into tech, right? So I want to say thank you guys so much for your time and viewership, and I wish you guys all the best. Anyways, thank you guys, and peace.